Today, how to connect the unconnected with Wi-Fi in one of the most remote regions of the world, the Australian outback. My guest today is Daniel Sacchero of Easyweb Digital. Join us right after this short message. All right, everybody, welcome back and welcome to another episode 49, can you believe it, of Wi-Fi Now TV. My name is Claus Hetting, and this, of course, is the show that brings you all the stories and not least all the great people from across the Wi-Fi industry. Now, we're going to get to this great Connecting the Unconnected project in just a moment. Before we do that, I just want to say that our Wi-Fi Now London event is, of course, over for this year. But if you missed it and you still want to get all the great information from the show, here's what you do. Go to our usual website at wifinow.international, and you can purchase and download all the presentations and videos from the London event. And of course, it's not free, folks. I wish I could give it away for free, but sometimes we also have to sell stuff to stay in business. So that's just the way it is for now. Sorry about that. But as always, if you want to contact me about anything, comments to the program or questions or whatever, drop me a line at klaus@wifinow.events.com. Always delighted to hear from you. Now, today we're going to be talking about connecting the unconnected with Wi-Fi. And there's a little bit of a backstory to this, because at the Wi-Fi Now Awards, which were held in London a couple of weeks ago, the winner of our Affordable Connectivity Award was, in fact, Project Easyweb of South Africa, a great project, in fact, and we also hope to get Project Easyweb on the show. But I also wanted to make sure that some of the other really excellent projects that entered our award got a chance to tell us about their great work, because to me, these folks are really, the digital heroes of our age. So today we'll be talking to Daniel Sacchero about his project, which connects Indigenous Australians and tourists in one of the most remote regions of the world, and that's deep in the heart of the Northern Territory of Australia. It's really exotic. I don't think we've had anything like this on the show before, but it's really interesting and really cool. So Daniel Sacchero, welcome to the show, and we're delighted to have you. Come on.
Good morning, Klaus, and thank you for inviting me to the show. It's a great opportunity, and we are really keen to come and talk to people about the great places where we actually do work and deploy Wi-Fi to, as you say, the unconnected.
Yeah, great stuff. So Daniel, you're right now in Victoria, I think, right?
Yes, I'm in Victoria.
Okay, so and you're up at an ungodly hour, I'm absolutely sure. But just introduce me to the company, because you're working for a private company, as I understand it, called Easyweb Digital, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So Easyweb Digital, it's a small company. We've been around for about 12 years. And we love doing things with wireless, which are a bit, as you said before, exotic and innovative. And we do a lot of unconventional Wi-Fi deployments. And we do a lot of work in the outback, in remote areas. And we've been doing that for a number of years.
Can you tell us a little bit about this Indigenous peoples and tourist Wi-Fi network that you've put up, which is, by the way, as I understand it, free Wi-Fi? How did you get started on that, and where is it today?
Well, we've been doing work in remote Indigenous communities, and we do work with different levels of government for quite a while. We work with the local, with the territory government as well, or the state governments, and we work with federal governments deploying free Wi-Fi, because free Wi-Fi is a way of connecting people that typically won't get connected. And free public Wi-Fi is a great way of breaking that digital divide that exists. Mm-hmm. So governments are keen to fund projects to provide connectivity to people. Mm-hmm. We in this particular project that we submitted to the award, those 4 communities came through an association with the tourism authorities and the indigenous organization.
Right, and I think actually we have some pictures that we're going to run through gradually here while we talk. So the first picture is actually to show people where the project that you submitted for the award, where it's actually located, and it's, shall we say, in the vicinity of what used to be called, well, there's a number of locations in the vicinity of what used to be called Ayers Rock. It now has an indigenous name that I don't remember, unfortunately, but it's right in the heart of Australia and in an extremely remote location. So you can see on that map that it's very far from, even from Alice Springs, which is the main city there, right?
Yeah. Yes, and many of the communities that we work, sometimes, I mean, people travel incredible amount of kilometers to get there. And when I say that the last project that we did in the Wingelina community is about 800 kilometers away from Alice Springs, and 500 of those are on the dirt. So yes, it is very, very remote areas where we work.
Okay, so we also have a picture here of some of the work that you're doing, one of your installations in which, what I believe is a national park in Australia, which is which is in fact right next to, which is essentially, I guess, Ayers Rock, which is now called Uluru, is it?
Uluru, yes. It's
Uluru.
Called Uluru.
Yes.
Yeah. So Uluru, it's one of those iconic tourism locations that we've been working with the territory government to assist tourism, and our free Wi-Fi implementations really do provide a very important link for tourists to connect to their loved ones back in Europe and back in America when they're coming from. So it's one of those great places that people can recognize, but we also have done great work in other parks like Kakadu or the Kings Canyon National Park or the Litchfield National Park.
Right, okay. So this is tremendous work that you're doing, and let's start with talking about some of the technology. How did you decide to build this essentially? Can you give us some details of the network? And follow-up question is, what was the biggest technical challenge in what you're trying to do in such a remote place?
Yes, well, in terms of technology, what is really challenging is what internet backhaul to use. And in many of these remote areas, the only option is satellite connectivity. And satellite is slow and is expensive. So we need to really try to optimize as much as we can that transmission to give a really good user experience. And sometimes we might have a number of tourists that connect to those systems. So it's always the most challenging decision from the technical terms is internet backhaul. The second one is power. A lot of these locations don't have reliable power systems. So we have to, in many cases, build our own solar power systems to power the Wi-Fi and the satellite equipment. So it's, each places have their challenge. Another one that I was building in Kakadu National Park, when I went to have a look at the site, I look at a line that they had on the wall, which was very high. And I asked the people, what's that line? And they said, oh, this is how high the river floods in here, which was above my head.
Oh my goodness me. Oh my goodness. These are not the kinds of issues that we have in Europe normally, I can tell you.
That's correct. So we had to design a system that we could take the systems away very quickly.
Yeah. Well, this is fascinating. Can you give us, and you don't have to disclose, this is an optional question if you don't want to answer it, but I am very curious at some of the costs involved in this and maybe some of the cost structure. Clearly the satellite backhaul is, I'm assuming, one of the big cost components, because one of the things that I've always been advocating for, one of the reasons why I advocate so much for Wi-Fi is because the equipment in itself is actually a low cost. But obviously there are other cost components here that are significant, right?
Well, the biggest issue of the cost when you're working in remote areas like this is actually people and logistics, because you spend a lot of time out. Like, for example, our last project, our engineers had to travel almost 800 kilometers each way, 400 of them on the dirt, and they had to carry all the equipment in and come back out. So, and they were there for a week. So the costs of equipment are not that big compared to the cost of people and the design and the carriage. But our projects range from, from let's say the $20,000 to the hundreds of thousands if we have to deploy solar power systems and if we have to build structures for the Wi-Fi. It's very different, very different each of the projects.
Right. So give us an idea of some of the socioeconomic effects of the work that you've been doing, because you are in many cases truly connecting people that have no other internet connectivity option with your Wi-Fi network. And can you tell us something about, has this created a growth in tourism, economy, jobs, something like that? I'm sure there must be an effect of this, right?
Yes, and I'm probably going to talk about the work that we're doing in the indigenous communities, which is actually what is more important from the socioeconomic perspective. And in many of these communities, the Wi-Fi system is the only connectivity, the only access that people have to the internet. And with increased reliance of government in delivering online services, they become very dependent on using these systems to connect and do their social security work, their health checks. They are starting to become a very, very critical part of the infrastructure in these indigenous communities. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's the only way of communicating to the internet, because mm-hmm. there is nothing else. There is no mobile, there is no 3G, there is no 4G, there is no copper services, there is no fiber. This is it. Mm-hmm. And people use it significantly.
Well, it really is absolutely, and it's really making a huge difference. I mean, what are we talking about in terms? I mean, these are small villages, or some of them are, at least as I understand. What are we talking about in terms of? Is it everybody in a village that actually uses it, or a big part of the population? How does that work?
Well, it's the usage is growing, and there is a cultural, cultural implication that people sometimes, when you put in a new service, they are a bit dubious about it first, but then with word of mouth, they start using it and more. Mm-hmm. So you see usage typically starts in the younger generation, teenagers and the younger people. But then in my last visit to communities, I saw a lot of people in the 60s or 70s coming over, connecting to the Wi-Fi using the smartphones. And that was great to see, because it's also breaking age divide on the usage. Yeah, there is it's used across the population.
Well, it's fantastic work that you're doing, and I'm so happy. Even though you didn't win the award, you're still doing great work. By the way, I had nothing to do with the judging, so I just read your application. I thought this was great. We have to get you on the show, and it's really good to have you, Daniel. And please come back and see us again and tell us more about your project. I think it's really a good one. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, Klaus. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you so much. All right, everybody, that's it for today's show. Thanks to Daniel Sacchero of Easyweb, and talking about the project in Australia. Is a great project. So next week we'll be diving once again into the world of home Wi-Fi technology with the guests from Eris, and that's going to be super good. So don't miss that. So see you next time for another episode. And thanks, as always, for watching this one. See you soon.
Wi-Fi Now is a production of RCR TV News. To suggest a show topic or to learn more about Wi-Fi Now events, you can reach Claus Hetting at klaus@hettingconsulting.com. To find out more about Wi-Fi Now and all things wireless, visit rcrwireless.com.